The number one thing that you can do to improve the state of your health is really paying attention to what you put on your plate, your fork, and ultimately in your mouth. Today, we're going to talk about three different foods that you totally want to avoid if your goal is to achieve health. Hi, my name is Sandrina. I'm accompanied here by the beautiful Laura. We are co-hosts of Étoile Wellness, Your Guiding Star to Healing, where we help women reclaim their health. So we like to say when you're out grocery shopping, yes, you look at the nutrition facts, but sometimes even more importantly, you want to look at the ingredients of what's inside that package or that bag or whatever it is that you're purchasing. And today we're going to talk about 3 different ingredients that if by chance they are in that ingredients list, you want to put it back on the shelf. So ingredient or food, whatever you want to call it, something that you totally want to avoid. Number 1 is high fructose corn syrup. Laura, what is high fructose corn syrup and why is it bad for you?
So, great question. High fructose corn syrup really is not doing you any favors. It's actually not only not doing you any favors, it's really harming you. High fructose corn syrup is a sweetener. And it's interesting because you have to go back a little bit. It's made out of corn and it's highly processed. And it's essentially because we have literally over commoditized corn as a crop in this country. We have more than we know what to do with. So we essentially sell off all of this corn and all of this wheat and soy, but we'll stick with corn for the high fructose corn syrup. And it essentially gets processed in a lab and it gets made into this sweetener, this thickener, this kind of like additive to kind of be put into a lot of processed foods to kind of give it shape, texture, sweetness. But there's a very big issue with it. And the issue is that it is mostly made of what we call fructose and not the fructose that is in fruits. That when we speak about high fructose corn syrup, we are not speaking about the natural fructose that occurs within fruits. We are speaking about the processed fructose that occurs in this kind of syrupy type of sweetener. And the reason why this is a very big issue is because fructose has to be converted, metabolized, transformed via the liver before it can be kind of sent out into your body for uptake into your cells. And so when we think about the types of sweeteners, like a glucose, right? So high fructose corn syrup also contains some glucose, right? Like some of the other starches we might think of, like rice or starchier vegetables. And that's good to go. Glucose is ready to be ready to kind of go and be absorbed by our cells immediately, right? But fructose, it has to go beelining into our liver first. And it has to be converted, and there's a lot of work that has to be done by our liver. So it burdens the liver, and it causes the liver to pump out cholesterol, triglycerides. It causes the pancreas to pump out way more insulin than it needs to. It just wreaks havoc on our bodies. And it causes our bodies to really respond accordingly to this food-like substance, as Michael Pollan would say, the food journalist. And it's not food. It's not giving us any nutrients. It's empty calories and it's burdening our liver. It's causing fatty liver disease. It's causing inflammatory illnesses. It's causing people to have high cholesterol, high triglycerides. It's in everything because I said it's a commoditized crop. So it's in everything. It's kind of like, oh, let's add some high fructose corn syrup here. People will become addicted to it because that's how we're wired as humans. We like that. We want that sweet. We want to keep it going. And it just really is incredibly harmful for us. And you need to look at that ingredients list and you need to see anywhere, if it says high fructose corn syrup anywhere on the label, you need to put that right back and move on. Processed food in and of itself, we need to really think twice, thrice. We need to think really long and hard before we want to purchase it. But start with looking at the ingredients. And if you see that high fructose corn syrup, run for the hills because it is just going to make you very, very sick in the long run.
Absolutely. So that ingredient plus the next one that we're going to talk about, I mean, studies have shown that it does lead to illnesses, heart disease, fatty liver, all the things that you want to avoid if you want to live a long, healthy life. So ingredient number 2, hydrogenated oils. What is it and why is it bad for you?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So hydrogenated oils are vegetable oils that have been processed, and hydrogen molecules have been added to make them go from liquid to solid, to make them more shelf stable, right? So it's all in the name of making things making processed food really processed and making them be able to sit on that shelf for longer and for you to be able to purchase them for longer. Nobody really gives any thought about how much it disrupts our chemistry, how much it disrupts our brain chemistry, our cell membranes. It may make the food more shelf stable, but it makes us really unstable. And so the idea that we have these oils, these vegetable oils that are also known as trans fats, because this is important because when you look at that ingredients list, right, it goes hand in hand with high fructose corn syrup, right? They're in pairs. Trans fats have been banned, right, in many states, right? There's all different laws. We're very behind the 8 ball here in the US, but to a degree, there is some more education coming down, which is wonderful. And so trans fats have been banned, but they get around it, right? Everything is about an angle and kind of like finding a way. And so they label it a different name, right? Like hydrogenated oil or something along those lines. If you see that, you need to run, because this again will disrupt every biochemical function process within your body. It leads to major inflammatory conditions, heart disease. It leads to diabetes. It leads to obesity. You name it, it leads to it. And it is honestly one of the deadliest ingredients that we could imagine placing into our bodies. And the issue is that if you knew that, you'd put it right back and you'd run. There wouldn't even be like a question, right? But because we don't know about this, and because we don't kind of talk about it, it just is like, oh yeah, let me grab those, you know, cakes or those sweets or those treats. And we don't think twice about it. Anytime you look and you see like an expiration date or good for use until, and it's like months down the road. I mean, think about that. Why am I putting something in my body that can potentially sit on this shelf for so long? It's just only going to make me so sick.
Mhm.
So it's just hydrogenated oils, just bad news. Vegetable oils, just bad news. Highly processed, make you very, very sick. And really in the long run and likely in the short run, I mean, studies show that it disrupts our functioning immediately. And if you really sat and listened to your body, you wouldn't feel well when you ate it. But we don't think and link. We don't do that yet, but we're going to get there. So if you see hydrogenated oil or anything if you see anything you don't recognize, put that baby right back and move on. Go into the perimeter of that supermarket and get yourself some beautiful fruit, something along those lines to help satisfy you and have that sort of sweet. I get it. We all want that, but there's ways of doing it that are healthier for you, right? There's ways of doing it without trans fat or hydrogenated oils. So that's it.
Absolutely, yes. Very true. It's all in real time. As you're eating the Twinkie, that Twinkie is causing changes in your body and the gut microbiome. It's telling your genes to turn on the illness genes. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you have to eat Twinkies for 6 months for now there to be changes in your body. It's real time. That minute that you're eating that Twinkie, things are happening not in a good way inside your body. So
Yeah,
that was very important to bring up. Go ahead.
Yeah, your gut actually is so sensitive to high fructose corn syrup or those hydrogenated oils that immediately upon ingesting them, it starts that cascade, that dynamic of what we like to talk about, enhanced intestinal permeability or leaky gut. It starts breaking down that immune kind of layer, that immune mucosa right away. You don't think about this, but we know that this is what is happening. right? But you're just sitting there eating your cakes thinking that life is great, but it's really not. It's super, super harmful.
Absolutely, yes. And before we get to the third food ingredient, if you want to learn more about what you should be eating, just below this video in the description, you'll find our guide, 7 Days to a Healthier Gut. It's free, so feel free to download that to learn a little bit more of what you should be eating. Now, ingredient number 3, artificial sweeteners. What are they and why are they bad for you?
Yeah, artificial sweeteners, they're everywhere, right? They are non-natural sweeteners that are kind of made in a lab, and they are oftentimes thousands and thousands of times sweeter than the natural sweeteners that occur in the world. Fructose, things along those lines, right? Like I talked about with some fruit is a great example. And they, you know, they were created because the thought was that they weren't going to add calories to your food, right? So, oh, here, great, we have a great option. We have these artificial chemical sweeteners that we're going to add to foods so that people can think they're getting that sweet satisfaction, but they're not actually getting that calorie, right? They're not getting those extra calories. Well, that has now backfired tremendously because these artificial sweeteners are ruining our gut microbiome because oftentimes they're what we call chlorinated artificial sweeteners. So there's almost like a antimicrobial effect. So they're wiping out that good microbiota, those good bacteria that we actually need to perform and to be functioning and to be healthy. So they wipe that out, and then they're contributing to enhanced intestinal permeability because your body is like, I have no idea what this is. Yeah, it doesn't. It's made in a lab, but it's sweet. I'll take it. Your brain may not be pumping out insulin in the short term, but it's remembering this artificial sweetener and it's saying, okay, why am I not getting any insulin here? What's going on? So it causes you to crave that sort of junk food with the actual stuff like high fructose corn syrup that's going to pump out that insulin. So it's almost like you're trying to, pull the wool over your body's eyes, but you never can because our body is the wisest thing. And if we listen to it, it will always tell us what is happening and what's going on. So it is not only disrupting, like I said, every process, disrupting that cell membrane, disrupting that functional cascade of wellness. It is actually making it, you become addicted, right? So oftentimes you'll hear that people are like, oh no, I have Diet Coke, I'm okay. But they can't give it up because they've become addicted to that artificial sweetener, which they think is okay for them. But it's ultimately leading them down the same exact road as all of those other sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup being one, and it's still burdening the body. It's burdening the liver. It's burdening the immune system. It's burdening the microbiome. It's just, they're linked to cancer, right? So we actually even say to ourselves, we even have labels, children and pregnant women maybe should not consume artificial sweeteners, but the rest of y'all can. But if we think about it, right, because we understand that this is kind of like, this territory of artificial sweeteners is controversial. And there is definitely data to back up the fact that it is really unhealthy and harmful. So let's keep children and pregnant women out, but the rest of y'all can have it. It doesn't make sense if you really think about it. So why would you do that, right? You're better off, like I said, heading to the perimeter of your supermarket, going to your green market and getting some fruit. I mean, and truthfully, having some clean filtered water with some lime or lemon. I mean, really, it's much simpler than we make it out to be. It's the addictive piece that makes it really tough, but you can break it. You really can. You have to know that you can break it, and you will.
Yes. And just for reference, some of the names of these artificial sweeteners that you may find in the ingredients list would be things like sucralose, aspartame. So sucralose, I think, is Splenda, the ingredient in Splenda. Aspartame, I think, is the one in Equal. And then there's, I believe, saccharin, which is maybe sweet and low, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. So those are some of the words that you want to look out for in the ingredients list. And if they're there, put it back on the shelf. And so there you have it. 3 foods to avoid if your goal is optimal health. Now, The purpose of the video is not to stress you out thinking about, oh my goodness, what do I have in my pantry that has these ingredients? That is not the goal of this video. Take what you learned from the video and start implementing from here on out, because the worst thing that you can do for your health is to now stress about it. Are we perfect, Laura and I? No. Do we try our best? Yes. So don't now stress over what's in the cupboard and what's in the pantry. Just do your best from here on out. Be more mindful. If all of these at the same time is too much, pick one ingredient. Try to stay away from that one. When you feel like you have it down, go to the next ingredient. But again, take the information that you got in this video, implement it from here on out. And, as you learn, you do better. You come back, you learn some more, and you do better again, even some more, and that'll eventually take you down the path of health. But stress is not what we want out of these videos. Take what you can, implement it, and you'll be all right. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. Like I said, you don't have to do all three at the same time. If it's too much, pick one and go with that one. It doesn't always have to be an all or nothing. Something will always be better than nothing. So just keep that in mind. All right, we'll see you in the next video. Good to see you, Laura.
You too.
Bye-bye.